Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Ari Talks About Music. I'm Ari, and today it is time for a review of the new Divorce album, Drive to Goldenhammer. Drive to Goldenhammer is the debut full-length album by the British indie rock band Divorce, and is one that after a couple of really solid EP releases I was definitely excited to hear. And I definitely think that they've done a good job at showing that they can kind of take their sound that they established on their EPs and really make that into an entire full-length album. The album opens with the track Antarctica, which just starts off with this really soft guitar riff and these really nice vocals too. And overall, this track reminds me so much of Peach Pit, just with the very summery feel and smooth production. And then towards the end of the track, you have this almost country-leaning feel, which is actually a surprisingly nice touch that fits in really well. I think that the drumming on this song is just a little bit weak, however, that is something that the track Lord does really well, with the percussion just having a much bigger presence and really just feeling a lot stronger and a lot harder. I also really do love the vocal harmonies on this track, especially during the chorus, and I do also just want to take a moment to mention how amazing the pre-chorus is, with there being so much going on and it just really feels so theatrical. Fever Pitch does show off some cool ideas, but on the whole, I think the execution of this track could have been done a lot better. The track overall just feels really messy, with it having very little structure, with there being so many moments and sounds that are just so random and really just don't fit in at all, in my opinion. You have parts of this track that are really simple and really stripped back, and some that just have so much going on, and it does just really make this track feel so messy, with there being very little thought put into how everything was arranged. Although the vocals are of course still really good on this track, and I also really like the guitar playing during the outro, but it's just annoying that the rest of the song couldn't quite live up to the two elements that I actually do quite like. Although I do really love the much slower and more gentle feel of Karen, really just showing a lot of versatility, as well as the vocals on this track of course just being amazing, as they are on pretty much the whole album, with that definitely being one of my favourite aspects of the whole thing, with it just being so consistent and how amazing the vocals are on pretty much every single song. And then this track in particular just only gets more beautiful and more passionate as it goes, and then of course really hits its peak once the climax really kicks in. Jet Show has some really interesting guitar arrangements that at first almost do sound a little bit out of place, but the layers are added very quickly that really just make everything blend in really well. And once again, I know I've mentioned it on nearly every song so far, but I just have to say how much I love the vocals on this track, especially just with how well the two vocalists, Tiger Cohen-Towle and Felix MB, really just harmonize so well, and just each of their respective voices just sounding amazing together. Parachuter again goes for a much softer feel, with this very playful and in a way almost wholesome vibe to the whole song. Vocals are of course as soft and as beautiful as ever, and the production on this track as well is amazing, which actually is something that I just want to take a moment to talk about being consistently one of my favorite things about the whole album, is just how amazing and beautiful the production is and how well everything fits together, and just how smooth and slick it is on the entire album, but this track in particular just really standing out as one of the best for me. All My Freaks once again just has that really beautiful and summery guitar sound, and during the chorus you have these really nice electronic arrangements that remind me so much of The Naked and Famous's Passive Me, Aggressive You, and they really just make the song feel so euphoric and really easy to get lost in. And then towards the end of the track you have these really interesting guitar tones that really switch up the sound that's present on most of the rest of the song, but actually sound really good towards the end. These slightly wobbly sound effects during the intro of Hangman do sound a bit weird, almost jarring when they come in so suddenly, but of course once the vocals come in that really does help to just pick up the song a little bit, and definitely makes it a lot more enjoyable and much smoother. The song structure overall does feel quite predictable on this track, as well as just feeling on the whole quite tame. However, the vocals and the musicianship are definitely still there, being consistently good for the entire song. Hill shows off some really cool ideas, and most notably the string arrangements during the intro that just really stand out and are definitely one of the most unique elements of this song. I think that my favourite thing about this track has to just be its progression, with the intro just having a really nice and very steady build before going into this nice little interlude that is very well placed. And then of course the pacing during the outro as well is really good, and just features some really nice guitar tones and of course the beautiful vocals. The much more piano-based Old Broken String is also definitely a highlight for me, with the much more softer and gentle and very stripped back sound, where they really just do a great job at showing off a lot of versatility. The very subtle and almost in a way dissonant string arrangements in the background work weirdly well, and especially as they progress and have more of a presence, they slowly become more and more melodic as they go, and easily is just one of my favourite things about this song, with it just being so unique and working really, really well. Where Do You Go on its own I think is an absolutely amazing song, however in the context of this album is extremely out of place, just with the much more percussion-based instrumental, the much darker sound, and the almost aggressive vocals in some moments. As much as I do love the versatility and diversity that this track shows, it just sounds completely out of place and would be much better suited in an album that overall goes for a much less summery and smooth feel. But luckily, Mercy does bring it back, just being a really nice and soft closing track, going back, of course, to the much more polished and smooth sound that the rest of the album has. And the track has very little that really makes it stand out as being particularly good, but just does a good job at showcasing all of my favourite elements of the album in just one song. And for a closing track, I think it does end quite abruptly, but still not in a way that is unsatisfying. And so I think that while this album is definitely far from perfect, with there being a lot of things that are quite out of place and having moments of being quite inconsistent, there are still many, many things on this album that are good for pretty much the whole thing, most notably the vocals, the guitar work, the production, and just the genuinely amazing musicianship that really shows so much genuine chemistry between the band members. And I think that many of the individual moments and individual songs, while not as consistent as I would like them to be, still make this album worth listening to, and I think that Divorce are a band that are absolutely worth keeping an eye on over the next few years, just with how much promise they've already shown on their debut album. But for now, I'll be giving this album a 7 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching this review. Please be sure to listen to this album yourself and tell me your thoughts below. Please leave a like if you liked the video, and please leave a dislike if you didn't like the video, and remember to stay hydrated.